scare you, no evil thing will. To see her is to take a sudden chill. Cruella, Cruella, the curl of her lips.
Okay, here I am on my back porch. Boy, it's been getting really warm lately, so I decided I'm going to start reading a little bit earlier in the day. That's a little closer. I want to relax, so move it down. Okay, so the next chapter is called Sudden Danger. For a few seconds, she stared into the dimly lit room. Then she shouted, "Saul! Jasper! Turn off that television! And turn on the light!" "We can't turn on the light because we've no electric bulbs left," said Saul Baden. "When the telly finishes, we go to bed. And if we turn the telly off, there'll be no light at all," said Jasper Baden. "Well, turn the sound off anyway," Cruella said angrily. And Jasper did as he was told, and the little figures moving on the screen were suddenly voiceless. The cad pig yapped indignantly. Mrs., who was crouching low in the midst of her family, instantly hushed her. Pongo also crouched low, got ready to spring at Cruella if she attacked any pup, but she seemed scarcely to notice any of them. Those near her shrank back as she strode into the room. "I've got a job for you, my lads," she said to the Badens. "The pups must be killed tonight, every single one of them." The Badens gaped at her. "But they're not big enough to be made into fur coats yet," said Saul. "The largest ones are, and the little ones can be made into gloves. Anyway, they've got to die before someone finds them. There's been so much in the papers about the Dearlys dogs. All England's on the hunt for Dalmatians." "But how could anyone find them here?" said Jasper Baden. "Why can't they just stay on growing bigger and bigger?" "It's too risky," said Cruella. "Someone might hear them yapping and tell the police. My husband's going to ship the skins abroad, except for the ones I keep for my own coat. I shall have it reversible. Persian lamb on one side and Dalmatian dog on the other, and wear the dog inside until people forget about the Dearlys pups. When that happens, I'll collect another lot and we'll start our Dalmatian fur farm again. But this lot must be got rid of, quickly." "How?" said the Badens, both together. "Any way you like. Poison them, drown them, hit them on the head. Have you any chloroform in the larder?" "Not a drop," said Saul Baden. "And no ether either." "We can't afford luxuries," growled Jasper Baden. "Drown them then." "Dogs can swim," said Saul. "Anyway, the pond's less than a foot deep." "Then you must hit them on the head," said Cruella. Saul Baden had gone pale. "What? Hit 97 pups on the head?" he said shakily. "We couldn't do that." "Have pity, Mrs. DeVille. We'd be worn out." "Listen," said Cruella DeVille. "I don't care how you kill the little beasts. Hang them, suffocate them, drop them off the roof. Good gracious, there are dozens of lovely ways. I only wish I'd time to do the job myself." Couldn't you make the time, Mrs. DeVille?" said Jasper. "You do it so beautifully. It'd be a pleasure to watch you." Cruella shook her head. "I've got to get back to London." Then a fiendish look came into her eyes. "Here's an idea for you. Shut them up without food, and then they'll kill each other." But they'd make such a horrible noise about it," said Saul Baden. "We'd never be able to hear the telly." "Besides, they damage each other's skins," said Cruella. That would ruin their value. You must kill them carefully. Then you can start the skinning." "But we can't skin them," wailed Jasper. "We don't know how." "My husband will show you," said Cruella. "We'll both drive down tomorrow night, and we shall count the bodies. Just remember that. Will you? If you have let even one pup escape, I'll turn you out of Hell Hall. Now you'd better get busy. Good night." Fortunately, few of the pups knew enough human to understand Cruella's words fully, but they all felt that she was evil. And as she made her way to the door, she aimed and kicked at a small pup who was dangerously close to her. It was more frightened than hurt, but gave a loud wail of anguish. Several of the bigger pups snarled indignantly at Cruella. Lucky, remembering the time that he had nibbled her ear, barked out hastily, "Do not bite her, chaps. She tastes hot." So Cruella got to the door unhurt. She flung it open, and the moonlight shone on her black and white hair and her absolutely simple white mink cloak. And then she looked back at the room full of puppies. "Goodbye, you horrid little beast," she said. "I shall like you so much better when you're skins instead of pups, and I'll simply love the ones who are made into my own coat. How I'm looking forward to it." They saw her walk out past the pond, which reflected the black house, and onto the great iron gates, which she unlocked and locked again behind her. Then through the silent winter night came the sound of a powerful car driving away, followed by one strident blast from the loudest motor horn in England. How well Pongo and Mrs. remembered that terrifying sound. It took them back to the happy evening when they had stood beside the striped black and white car on the outer circle. How safe and contented they had been, little guessing what dangers lay ahead. Jasper Baden hurriedly shut the door, saying, "If we've got to do the pups in, we'd better keep them all in one place." Pongo felt stunned. If only he could think. If only the sheepdog were there to advise him. Mrs. whispered, "If you wish to attack those villains, I will help you, Pongo." Lucky said quietly, "They always carry knives." Pongo's brain was beginning to work. "If we attack them, they may kill us," he said to Mrs., "and then there would be no one to help the pups." "Quiet, let me think." The Badens were talking together in low grunts. "One thing's certain," said Jasper. "We can't do it tonight, or we shall miss What's My Crime." It was their very favorite television program. Two ladies and two gentlemen in faultless evening dress had to guess the crime committed by a lady or a gentleman in equally faultless evening dress. Stern moralists said this program was causing a crime wave and filling up the prisons because people committed crimes in hope of being chosen as contestants. But crime is usually waving and the prisons are usually full, so probably What's My Crime had not made much of a difference. Both Badens longed to appear as contestants, but they knew they would never be chosen unless they committed a really original crime, and they had never been able to think of one. "We could kill the pups after What's My Crime," Jasper said. "We ought to do it tonight while they're sleepy. They'll be more dangerous when they're awake." "It's a nuisance. That's what it is," said Jasper. "And whatever we do, we shall be exhausted. First the killing, then the skinning." "Maybe we'll get the knack of the skinning," said Saul. "Then we can skin while we watch the telly." "Still, 97 pups," said Jasper. Then a wild gleam came into his eyes. "Saul, I'll bet no one else has ever murdered 97 Dalmatians. It might do the trick for us. It might get us on to What's My Crime." "Now you're talking," said Saul Baden. "You and me, in an evening dress with carnations in our buttonholes, and all England watching us, but we must think out some really striking way of doing our crime." "Could we skin them alive?" "They'd never keep still," said Jasper. "What about boiling them?" Pongo whispered to Mrs. "We shall have to attack. It's our only hope." "I'll get the biggest pups to help you," said Lucky quietly. "We'll all help. I can bite well." And then something happened. The cadpig, whose eyes were fixed on the silent television screen, gave 3 short barks. No human ear could have known what those barks meant. Those barks meant, "What's my crime?" But the Baden brothers, startled by the noise, looked towards the cadpig, and, in doing so, had noticed the television screen. Saul Baden let out a roar of rage. Jasper Baden gave a howl of misery. It was on, What's My Crime, but without any sound. Of course, they were missing it, their favorite program. And just when the first time they had hopes of appearing on it, they hurled themselves at the television set. Saul turned the sound on full blast. Jasper adjusted the picture, and they flung themselves down on their mattresses, grunting with delight. "They won't stir for the next half hour," whispered Lucky. At last, Pongo's brain sprang into full attention. Instantly, he whispered to Lucky, "March the pups out into the stable yard. Your mother and I will mount guard over the Badens." Lucky whispered, "If we go out through the larder, we could eat tomorrow's breakfast on the way. That's the door by the fireplace. It's bolted, but I expect you can unbolt it, can't you, Father?" Pongo had never even tried to unbolt a door, but he had seen the sheepdog do it. "Yes, Lucky," he said firmly, "I can unbolt it." They tiptoed across the kitchen, then Pongo stood on his hind legs and took the bolt in his teeth. It would not budge. He rested his teeth and took a good look at the bolt in the light from the fire. He saw the knob was turned down and would have to be raised before the bolt would slide. Now we shan't be long, he said to Lucky, and again he took the knob with his teeth. He raised it, tried to slide it. Still it would not slide. He thought, Lucky will lose confidence in me, and he dragged and dragged until he thought his teeth would break. And then he began to fear that if the bolt did shoot back, it would make a loud noise. Just then there was a burst of applause from the television. Someone had guessed a contestant. He had stolen 200 bath plugs from a hotel's. Pongo made a desperate effort, and the bolt shot back. The larder door swung open. I knew you'd do it, Father, said Lucky proudly. Just a matter of knowing how, Pongo said, running his tongue around his teeth to make sure they were all still there. A cold draft came in from the larder. It had been a dairy when Hell Hall was a farm, and there was wooden slats instead of windows. The moonlight shining in through the slats made bright stripes on the stone floor. Meat for the puppies' breakfast was already set out in long troughs, but the Baddens hated working in the early morning. There were small troughs for the little pups and big ones for the larger ones. Pongo said to Lucky, wait until I get back to your mother. Then, while she and I are ready to attack the Baddens, march all the pups in here. Tell them no pup is to eat until the last pup has a place at the trough. I will join you and then give the word to start eating. It was remarkable how quickly the pups left the kitchen under Sergeant Lucky's whispered directions. Row after row marched out, like children leaving a school hall after prayers, except that the big pups left first, and as they were nearest the door. Pongo and Mrs. watched the Baddens anxiously, for the hundreds of little toenails made a clitter-clatter on the kitchen floor, and there were a few scuffles and snuffles and snorts, though never even the smallest bark, for the pups guessed that their lives depended on their silence. But the Baddens had eyes and ears for nothing but the television. Lucky left his own brothers and sisters to the last. At last of all, to leave was the Cadpig. She was an intelligent little puppy, and quite understood that she had to escape, but oh, how she hated leaving the television. She went out backwards, still staring at the screen. Then Pongo and Mrs. sped swiftly across the big red kitchen. They looked back from the larder door and saw that the Baddens had not stirred. How much longer will What's My Crime last? Whispered Pongo. 20 minutes, said the Cadpig promptly and wistfully. Pongo and Mrs. closed the larder door. The bolt on the inside was low and easy to manage. Pongo shot it home at once, while the pups looked on admiringly. Every pup had a place at the trough, but not one lick of food had been eaten. 1, 2, 3. Feed, commanded Pongo. In 59 seconds flat, every scrap of food had been eaten. But what about you and Mother, said Lucky. I think I can find the Baddens' Sunday dinner. He found it on a shelf, 2 steaks, rather poor grade. But Pongo and Mrs. swiftly ate them. Then Pongo gave the troops the right to forage and search the larder. Everything edible was eaten. The big pups shared with the little pups, most fairly. Anything in the cupboard, said Pongo at last. Only coke for the central heating furnace, said Lucky. Well, the Baddens won't find anything to eat tomorrow, will they? Let 'em eat coke, said Pongo. I should stop here and let you know that it wasn't Coca-Cola. Okay. And it wasn't cocaine. It was stuff that they used to use the furnace. Back to my story. The entire meal had taken 5 minutes. Pongo now felt he must get his troops out of Hell Hall as fast as possible. Therefore, there had been no time to think out plans for the future. He was counting on the Colonel's advice. All that could be done now was to lead the pups to the folly. The outer door of the larder was easily opened. Then across the old orchard they went, in that door which the Colonel had so thoughtfully propped open. Mrs. gave one backward glance at the black Hell Hall under the full moon. What would the Baddens do when they found not one pup in the kitchen? There was not room for 97 pups on the ground floor of the Folly, nor would there have been in the crowded upstairs rooms, so Pongo marched everyone out onto the heath. As the last pup marched out, the sheepdog arrived. At first he thought Pongo had recklessly begun the escape too soon, but when he had heard the true facts, he praised Pongo highly, and was particularly pleased that all the pups had been fed before escaping. That was Sergeant Lucky's idea, said Pongo proudly. Good work, Sergeant Major, said the Colonel. But where are we to go? Said Mrs. anxiously. Look, the puppies are shivering. They were indeed, for though it was not freezing, it seemed terribly cold to them after the warm kitchen. Good morning. The sheepdog looked worried. Not that anyone would see this, as his expressions were always hidden by hair. What was he to do at a moment's notice with 97 Dalmatian puppies and 2 full-grown Dalmatians? At last he said, "Our big barn for the night, anyway. Pups can keep warm in the straw. It's only half a mile across the heath." Half a mile? How little to Pongo and Mrs. How much, and how terribly much, to tiny Cadpig. And even after a few hundred yards, Pongo was in despair about the long journey to London which lay ahead. The big pups ran along happily. The medium-sized pups did quite well, and even most of the smaller pups looked as if they were capable of a reasonably long walk. But the smallest puppies of all, Pongo's own family, how were they to walk 70 miles? Lucky, Patch, Roly-Poly, and the other boys struggled along bravely, but the girl stumbled and panted and had to have much rest. As for the Cadpig, she would never have reached the farm at all if the sheepdog had not given her a lift. He lay down, and she climbed onto his back and held on to his long hair with her teeth. Even so, she nearly slipped off twice. "She could never stay on our smooth back," said Mrs. to Pongo. "If only I could wheel her in a doll's perambulator." "You couldn't walk all the way to London in your hind legs, Pongo, even if we had a perambulator." At last they reached the big barn at the back of the farm, where the Colonel lived. The tired pups snuggled into the hay and straw and instantly fell asleep. Pongo, Mrs., and the Colonel stood at the door trying to make plans. The Colonel said, "I can't keep you here long. You would be found. Besides, I couldn't feed so many. We must get you to London by easy stages, just a few miles a day." "But where shall we sleep? Where shall we find food?" said Pongo anxiously. "It will need tremendous organization," said the Colonel. "I hope to arrange the first stage at once by the midnight barking. I must bark some distance from the farm, or I shall wake my pets." Pongo offered to bark with him, but the sheepdog would not hear of it. "You two must rest. It's now nearly 10 o'clock. If my plan goes well, I shall wake you at 4, when there will be still over 3 hours of darkness." "That will be long enough for you to get you to the place I have in mind." "But my smallest daughter is so weak," said Mrs. "How can she make any journey?" The Colonel smiled. Not that anyone could see that. "I have a plan for the little lass," he said. "Now sleep. Sleep, both of you." Pongo and Mrs. went to the dark barn, sniffed out their own family. Only Lucky had stirred. He said he was trying to sleep with his eyes open so that he could be on guard. "You close both eyes," said Mrs. firmly, and Lucky did, quite happy to know that his parents were there to take charge. "What would happen if we were found here?" asked Mrs. "Surely the people at the farm are kind. They wouldn't hurt us." Pongo had been thinking about this. He guessed as there had been so much in the papers about himself and Mrs. and their family, they might all get safely returned to the Dearleys. But the other puppies, what would happen to them? Even the dear, kind Dearleys would not take in 82 puppies they did not know. The poor things would be sent to the police station. Anything might happen to them. But if once the Dearleys saw them, then all the puppies would suddenly belong to the Dearleys, just as they had suddenly seemed to belong to him. In the dark kitchen, somehow, he must get them all to London. Mrs. felt just the same, but she did not see how the Cadpig and some of her sisters would make the journey. "Well, sleep now," said Pongo, giving her a loving lick. Are you glad you didn't, after all, have to bite the human?" "The Baddens are no more human than Corella is," said Mrs. "Still, I'm glad I did not have to soil my teeth." They would not have fallen asleep so easily if they had known what the sheepdog had just seen. Across the heath, lanterns were moving. The Baddens were out, searching for the missing puppies. Okay, that's the end of that chapter.
She's like a spider waiting